The Atlanta Braves take down the Colorado Rockies 8-2, marking their fourth win on the road trip, their fourth straight winning series, but they lose AJ Smith-Shawver in the process. Let's talk about it.
This is the Braves Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Braves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com, joined by Jake Mastroianni, host of Locked On Braves. You can follow him on social media at shortstopball. I'm at Crosby Baseball. And Jake, 8-2 victory for the Atlanta Braves over the Colorado Rockies. And this one was never in doubt. Atlanta took a lead early, never relinquished it. But we got some bad news we saw AJ Smith-Shawver leave the game with injury after being hit by a pitch in the sixth inning. Let's take the offense first. Every Brave starter in this game has a hit but Marcell Ozuna. Marcell Ozuna goes 0 for 5. Everybody else combined for 14 hits. I'm having trouble figuring out who the MVP is here because a lot of guys had some really good at-bats and some really good run production, either RBIs or runs scored. And again, no home runs.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. I mean, if they're able to somehow sweep this series on Wednesday without a home run in Coors Field, that might be one of the craziest things that I've seen in baseball. And baseball is a pretty crazy sport. But in just 14 hits in back-to-back games, I mean, no home runs from this Braves team. But it's nice to see. Look, I'll take the home runs, but to see them be able to do it in different ways. I think part of that is because your MVPs right now, they're at the bottom of the lineup, and they're not necessarily your power guys, although maybe Eli White will be. I don't know. But the guys that are just, putting the ball in play and doing some different things for you. So that's okay. The home runs are going to come. I don't doubt that at all. We know they're going to get those home runs. We know they can win that way. But to be able to see them do it like this in back-to-back games on the road in Coors Field, not getting too big. I think a lot of hitters go to Coors Field and think, well, I got to hit that home run. And to see them, not necessarily take that approach and just be able to take their singles and split the gaps. It's a big outfield there in Colorado as well. So really impressed with what we've seen from this offense in this series.
Yeah, and the Braves wore out both of those alleys, left center and right center. In this one, we see 4 Braves doubles: Eli White, Sean Murphy, Michael Harris, Matt Olson. Eli White also has a triple. I honestly thought he could have had a second triple. Yeah. I wanted him to pull a Corbin Carroll and get that second triple there. But to your point at the bottom of the order, those guys combined for only 4 hits, but 2 runs scored, both by Eli White. Michael Harris and Nick Allen combined to drive in 5. It was a little bit of a different pattern in this game. Normally, it's those guys getting on and they get driven in by the top of the order. Austin Riley had 2 RBI, but it was the middle of the order getting driven in. Matt Olson goes 3 for 5. He scores 3 times. Ozzie Albies 2 for 4. He scores once. Sean Murphy 2 for 5. He scores both times he gets on. A little bit of a different dynamic, but to your point, the fact you can do it without home runs makes you feel good about, one, the approaches are better. And then when those home runs start to come, it raises the ceiling of this team. And you did all of this in a night where Marcell Ozuna, who's been your offensive MVP now for a year and a half, went 0 for 5.
Yeah, it's impressive, and it shows the length of the lineup. We were kind of chatting before, pressing that record button, that's what you got to have, because there's going to be times, Austin Riley's had a pretty rough road trip. He got some big hits tonight that I thought, they were late kind of tack-on runs. The game was kind of already out of reach, but those were big moments for Austin Riley to be able to stay back on those baseballs, drove one the other way for a couple of RBI hits. That's big for him, but it's been a struggling road trip for him, Ozuna, but to see everybody else in the lineup kind of pick things up to be able to keep the offense going, that's what you got to have. It can't just be dependent on 1 or 2 guys at the top. It's got to be the full 9 being able to get it done, and other guys step up in certain spots. Look, Eli White's hot right now. I don't know if it's sustainable or believable, but you ride it out. I mean, he is the hot guy, and that's what you got to have. You got to have guys up and down the order. We talked about Ozzie, how he's been struggling a lot lately, but at some point, Ozzie is going to carry you for a week or 2. So it's just having those guys up and down the lineup that can do those things for you, can get hot for a stretch and help this offense, because not everybody can be clicking at the same time.
Yeah. And to your point of Ozzy, he came into this game. I had the stat here during the game. He came into this game with a 14% pop-up rate. And we saw the first at bat. He jumps on a sinker that's elevated in the zone, pops it up. But after that, I feel like Ozzy, he didn't completely fix everything, but he rebounded a little bit. He had back-to-back singles. The second one was laced at like 96 miles an hour. It was more competitive at bats. And yes, it is the Rockies. We have to acknowledge that this pitching staff is not to the same level that everybody else is. This is one of the worst teams in baseball, but it felt like up and down the lineup. And you mentioned it, I think, really well earlier. They avoided the Coors Field trap of just trying to hit home runs, which is already a problem for this team, always wanting to hit home runs and just make solid contact. I'm hopeful that Ozzy's good day can translate into more consistent performance from him, because arguably on this road trip, or I guess this season as a whole, he's really been the weak point of the offense, believe it or not, just simply because he's been behind the heart of the order, and he's been not only striking out a lot and chasing a lot, but he's been popping out a lot, plays that virtually have no chance of being base hits.
Yeah, I'm going to do a deep dive on Ozzy on Wednesday night's podcast, so a little tease there for Locked On Braves. But Snick continues to put him in that fifth hole. I know we've talked about it. It just can't be there right now. It's not a good place for him. I don't want to mess with Michael either, because he is playing fantastically in that seventh.
Don't break up that bottom three of the order.
Yeah,
don't have him. He has about 6. It's the only option you have.
But Murphy or Baldwin, in my mind, need to be in that fifth spot behind those guys at the top. They've been swinging a good bat. Even Murphy tonight, a guy who you know is going to swing for the fences. He had a ball that was outside and he stayed back on it long enough. Still pulled it, because that's what he's going to do. He pulls everything, but he's strong enough. He's able to pull it down the left field line for a base hit. You know, Baldwin's going to give you at least a good at bat. So I think those guys need to be batting fifth right now. Put Ozzy down 6th until he can get going.
Yeah, it just overall good day for the offense. You feel really good about this. And if anybody's going to go hitless, if it's Marcell Ozuna, fine. He's going to be fine. I'm not worried about Marcell Ozuna. In just a minute, I want to talk about the pitching staff, though, because we did AJ Smith-Shawver leaves this game with injury. We'll do that next right here on the Braves Postcast. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, check into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. It's one of the highest protein nuts. Wonderful Pistachios, 1 ounce servings here, 6 grams of protein. It's over 10% of your daily recommended value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller for longer. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a big seed guy, right? I'm eating nuts and seeds all the time. I'm a big fan of the no-seed pistachios, or the no-shell pistachios. You can just grab a bag and munch. You don't have to worry about making a mess. Super easy to eat. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Okay, Jake, I was really impressed with AJ Smith-Shawver's results. I thought the process to get there, giving up a lot of hard hit balls, but ultimately in the game, when he leaves the game in the 6th inning, 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, he had allowed 1 run. He did open that inning, letting somebody get on base. I think it was Jordan Beck singled, and then Beck comes around to score off of Vinyo de los Santos. But Ryan McMahon sends a line drive at 105 back up the middle off of AJ. I believe it was the elbow. He makes the play, just pure adrenaline, then has to come out of the game. Before we get into the long-term ramifications of that, what did you see from AJ in this one? Because I thought the stuff looked good. He was having some altitude issues like everybody does, but he did give up plenty of hard hit balls at the same time.
Yeah, I was going to say, I might hesitate a little bit on calling this one just that great AJ Smith-Shawver outing. Results-wise, yes. Efficiency-wise, yes. That was probably what I loved the most about this outing from AJ Smith-Shawver, was just the efficiency and the ability to be in the strike zone. And you see, his stuff's good enough. He can be in the strike zone and still get results. But it was 8 hard hit balls, all of them in the air, a couple of lineouts. You did have the 1 home run, a splitter that came into the lefty Tolia, who just absolutely destroyed that one, 414 feet. A couple of lineouts, like I said, some flyouts that hitters just missed. And that's been really the trouble with AJ Smith-Shawver at the big league level, especially is giving up the home runs. So that worries me, a little bit. And if you can be a fly ball pitcher for sure, but that does worry me. It is going to obviously tend to lead to some more home runs. But what you can't do is you can't have those home runs come after walks. And that's kind of been the problem with AJ Smith-Shawver is he hasn't had the control. So he's walking batters, then he leaves one up in the zone and he gives up the home run with a runner on base. And that wasn't the case in this one because he did a good job throwing strikes. That splitter, I don't know what to think about it in this one. And CJ talked a lot about it on the broadcast. Just the movement on it was all over the place. It's hard to tell what was intentional, what was real, what was accidental with that splitter. A lot of them left right over the middle, which works fine if you're, I don't think it's, again, what you're intending to do, but it actually works if you're able to locate the four-seam fastball up, because then that does give like some sort of tunneling effect. But I just don't think throwing splitters right down the middle is necessarily the strategy that you always want to go to. You want that diving down below the zone. So again, best thing that I saw from AJ in this one is just the ability to throw strikes and be in the zone and be efficient and still get outs with his stuff in the zone, because it is good stuff.
Yeah, the four-seam fastball, 77% in the zone. Bad news is 16 swings, only 2 whiffs on the four-seam fastball. They fouled 4 off. They put 10 into play. And that's where not all, but a lot of those hard hit balls came from. The splitter gave up a couple as well. I do think with the splitter, you saw like going off of StatCast, he lost a couple inches of drop on it today. I think some of that may have been the altitude. And to your point, CJ talked a lot about that on the broadcast. It's just hard to pitch in Colorado. I do think that given that it was Colorado, the results came out okay. But kind of like you said, I do worry about his ability to repeat that against a better lineup, right? Like he's not going to start against the Dodgers this weekend. But if you play somebody that doesn't have literally the worst start in baseball history in the Colorado Rockies, can you get that same level of success? But the fundamentals, the ability to throw things for a strike, the ability to sequence them well, that was all there. If AJ Smith-Shawver does have to go on the injured list, and at the time of this show being live, we don't actually know yet. They're meeting with Brian Snitker right now. The Braves in trouble in that situation. You've already lost Ronald Lopez. You're already down Spencer Strider. If you lose AJ Smith-Shawver, the Braves, and I know you'll talk about this more on your show, but the Braves are in a little bit of an issue if that happens, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. This is, again, not to beat a dead horse, but this is the problem with not going out and finding that depth in the offseason is that you lose a pitcher or two, and here you are. We also haven't heard much about Spencer Strider and how long he's going to be out. I know when it initially happened, they said at least 2 weeks, but, hopefully he's closer coming back than maybe we think. But, I mean, you're looking at a Davis Daniel who just optioned. You can obviously bring him back up because of an injury. Yeah. But it's really slim pickings after that. I don't think they would push a Lucas Braun up from Double-A. They've done it before, but he's maybe one of your best minor league pitchers so far this season early on. Waldrop hasn't really impressed enough early on. So there's just not a lot of great options out there for this Braves team, unless you're going to go with some sort of bullpen game, or if they're able to hold on to Ian Anderson, which again, he's not really stretched out to start either.
Yeah. I will point out, half joking, half serious, Jose Suarez pitched 4 scoreless innings for Gwinnett tonight. No walks, 2 hits, 5 strikeouts. I had a friend who covers the Angels reach out to me and is like, he'll do this in AAA. It doesn't translate to the majors, but it's entirely possible you see them try to stretch out one of these relievers just because at a certain point you're going to have a starter. Okay, so 8-2 victory for the Braves over the Rockies. Tomorrow's game, I have the time as 3:10. Chris Sale on the mound. This is a game, it's an opponent that's struggling. Chris Sale's obviously been struggling, but we talked about the slider looked as good as it was. The fastball velocity was there, but the locations weren't crisp last time. Is this the day where Chris Sale gives us the vintage Chris Sale performance and the Braves sweep this series?
If this game were at home, I'd say yes, but you just never know in Colorado with the movement of those pitches and a guy that's already been struggling with location and command and mechanics early on. And then now you have to pitch in Colorado that can do some funky things to your pitches. It is a great matchup for him. And if the Rockies hitters are as aggressive on Wednesday as they were on Tuesday against AJ Smith-Shawver, then hopefully you'll see that efficiency from Chris Sale and that he's able to go deep in the game. But yeah, certainly a great matchup for him to get back on track and get those good results against a lineup that let's be honest, it's pretty rough over there for Bud Black and the Rockies. That's why it's hard for me to take too much away from the pitching side of things in this series, because that lineup is pretty poor.
Yeah. All right. Chris Sale versus Chase Dollander again, 3:10 p.m. tomorrow. That's the finale. We will have a postcast coming for you when that game is concluded. In the meantime, if you're listening on audio, do us a favor. Leave a 5-star review for Locked On Braves, Apple, Spotify, whatever Google uses for their podcast nowadays. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to both Locked On Braves and Locked On Sports Atlanta. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live, because at this rate, we're talking about wins every day, folks. We're going to talk about a series win tomorrow. We're manifesting this. Pray for AJ Smith-Shawver's elbow. Until next time, this has been the Braves Postcast.